So this is a special morning. We have people who have just finished their TTC, Teachers Training Course, as well as people who are going to begin very shortly today, right? So I thought it's a good opportunity to just talk a little bit about yoga. And I have a book here. It's called Bliss Divine. It's a collection of essays by Swami Shivananda about many different topics, spiritual topics. And today we will hear about yoga. So before I go into Swami Shivananda's words, I just want to say a few things. First of all, the word yoga is derived from the root yuj in Sanskrit, which means to unite, to unite. And the purpose of yoga is to help us realize that in essence, we are one with the supreme reality. Yoga is the science through which we learn how to realize the self and how we ultimately we realize the self through the path of yoga. So the union that yogis are talking about is a union between the individual and the supreme, or what we call the individual soul, the jiva, and the supreme soul, the Paramatma. Right now, ordinarily, all of us feel that we are separate individuals, that we have a body and a mind and a soul, and this is an individual soul. This is my soul. This is how we feel, right? We don't exactly also understand what is soul, but still we have this notion. So, but yogis teach us that this individual soul is actually not really individual. Yes, we feel that this soul is individual because we identify ourselves with this physical body and also with our mind. So whatever pertains to the physical body or the mind, the thoughts, the emotion, everything, we think it is I, this is me, yes? So we fully identify with the body and the mind, and our notion of who I am is it feels like something very limited, individual, secluded, right? I am here and you are there, right? I am a soul, you are souls, many souls are here. But yogis teach us that essentially there is only one soul, and we have different names to call this soul. We say self, there's one self, or there is one supreme being, God. See, these are all synonymous when we read yogic texts, and we should know soul and God and consciousness, pure consciousness. All of these are used in different, they have slightly different meanings, but we can all right now understand them as having one and the same meaning. Yes, so the purpose of yoga is to bring us to a state which is called self-realization. It means that we realize who we truly are, right? I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I am the Supreme Soul, pure consciousness. This is the goal of yoga. This is not just the goal of yoga. Yogis teach us that this is the goal, the purpose of human life. This is what we are born for. We are born in order to realize who we truly are. Yes? Why is it important? Because, first of all, it's better to live in reality than to imagine things, right? It's better to know who you are than to think you're something you're not, right? This is the first thing. Yes, and secondly, identifying with the body and the mind brings about a lot of suffering because the body and the mind are limited, right? So many limitations are there. The physical body, first of all, it is born and it goes through different changes, and ultimately it is going to perish and die. And this is very frightening, right? And then there is the mind, which is jumping like a monkey, so many thoughts, so many emotions, not all of them positive, right? So we are swayed by different emotions. A lot of suffering is there in our life just because we identify ourselves with the limited, uncontrolled body and mind. Whereas that who we truly are, pure consciousness, the self, yogis say, is an ocean of bliss, an ocean of love, right? And realizing this self is not finding anything new, because we cannot be something we are not. We are this self right now. Yes? Realizing the self just means that, I have realized that which is already there, right? So, saying all this, now Swami Shivananda, he writes, yoga shows you the marvelous method of rising from badness to goodness, and from goodness to godliness, and then to eternal divine splendor. So, first of all, rising from badness to goodness, this basically means that we, through the path of yoga, through the practices of yoga, we learn how to give up our lower instinctive nature in the form of negative thoughts, negative emotions, and negative actions, which result from negative thoughts and emotions. So this is what is meant by moving from badness to goodness. It just means that we are actually beginning to gradually have a little more self-control, yes? And our actions become better and better, right? We are not committing bad deeds. Then, from goodness to godliness means that we're actually now exhibiting our divine nature, yes? And also it means that we have some sort of communication or communion with the Supreme Being, that we have realized that there is intelligence behind this life, that we realize that there is a creator, right? Nothing appeared out of nowhere. See, somebody did all this, right? That we have some connection with the Lord, and also we exhibit divine, lordly attributes in plenty, like compassion and love and kindness, etc., etc. So we move from badness to goodness, from goodness to godliness. And all of this is being done through a process of purification, which yoga teaches us. All the practices that we are doing are for the purpose of purification on the physical level, on the mental level. It is all for the purpose of purifying the heart, purifying the mind. And then from godliness, Swami Shivananda says, to eternal divine splendor. So eternal divine splendor signifies self-realization. Yes? Realizing who we truly are, and then continually abiding in this ocean of love. That is what is meant here. So Swami Shivananda says, yoga does not want a turning away from life. It demands spiritualization of life. So yoga doesn't tell us, yogis do not tell us, or yoga does not teach us to turn our back to life, which means not everyone is supposed to live in an ashram. Not everyone is supposed to live in a yoga center, right? Not everyone is supposed to be a swami, like we have here, swamis wearing orange, right? No, we are supposed to be in the world, right? Even us, people who live in this ashram, we're in the world, right? We're communicating with the world all the time. we're walking around with our smartphones, right? We're teaching online and we're seeing all of you, and so many people come here, come and go like this. So we have this connection with the world all the time. Swami Shivananda, Swami Vishnudevananda, our masters, they never instructed us to sit in a cave, but rather they instructed us to be in the world, to teach in the world, yes, and to grow and evolve in the world. And this is what we're supposed to do. So in the beginning, it may be for a few years that we say, I am practicing yoga, right? And we feel that we practice, well, once or twice a day. I practice 1 hour in the morning and then 20 minutes in the evening. Yes, like this. But slowly, slowly, we come to realize that yoga is a continuous thing, that the practice is something which penetrates every single moment of the day. Swami Shivananda writes here in this very essay that yoga is not just asana and pranayama, the yogic postures and the breathing exercises. Many, many people think that this is yoga, right? But it is not so. Yoga is much more than this, yes? Yoga it has to do with all the different aspects of our life on all levels. So as we grow and evolve on the spiritual path, we come to understand, we come to realize, and we're also getting more and more the capacity to apply the teachings, the practices, every single moment of the day. Yes, so yoga is not turning away from life, right? It is spiritualizing every single moment within our life. Then Swami Shivananda explains that yoga is for all. He says yoga is universal. It is not a sectarian affair. It is a way to God and not a creed. Okay, so it is a way to God. It is a way to self-realization. It does not belong to any specific sect. Anyone can practice yoga. Swami Shivananda says the practice of yoga is not opposed to any religion or any sacred church. It is purely spiritual and universal. It does not contradict anyone's sincere faith. See, you can be practicing any religion and still be a yogi. And as Swami Swarupananda ji told us once, if you practice yoga, yes, you become a better Christian, you become a better Jew, you become a better Buddhist, whatever religion you practice or belong to, or if you're an atheist as well, yes, you just simply become a better person and you become better in whatever it is that you practice or do in your daily life. So Swami Shivananda says yoga is not a religion, but an aid to the practice of the basic spiritual truths in all religions. Yoga teaches us that there are many, many paths which all lead to the same truth. See, yoga helps us realize this. Many paths are there, but the truth is one. God is one. God is not a Jew or a Christian or a Buddhist, right? God is one. And all different religions lead to that same truth. Yoga is just helping us realize this. Then Swami Shivananda, he mentions, as I mentioned just moments ago, that yoga is not just a physical exercise, right? It's not just yoga asanas, pranayamas, and all those bandhas, mudras, all the different exercise that have to do with the body and the breath. He says most people do not have access to yoga beyond its physical level. Most people do not even have access to yoga which is beyond the physical level. But of course, having access means, right, it's in our head, okay? We may be exposed to the teachings and not really understand. We may be going on a weekly basis to a yoga center practicing yoga, but we still don't realize the depth of it. So Swami Shivananda explains why most people do not have access to yoga beyond the physical level. He says it is because true yoga needs intense personal discipline coupled with intense thinking under the guidance of an able teacher. Yeah? So you really need to be exposed to the teachings properly, under guidance. And in that sense, all of us are so blessed. See, we're here in this traditional ashram. And those of you who just finished the TTC, I'm sure you're going to agree with me, right? You're receiving knowledge in such a pure way, in the same way that it has been taught for thousands and thousands of years. It is being taught right now. And those of you who are going to do the TTC right now, this is so wonderful. See, it is a wonderful opportunity. And this is what you're going to realize very soon, that yoga is something that is far way beyond the physical, right? It includes also the physical, but not just. So then, Swami Shivananda explains a little bit about prerequisites to yoga. So you need to have some things in order to have success in yoga, right? So he says moral purity and spiritual aspiration are the first steps in the path of yoga. So moral purity and spiritual aspiration are the first steps, means that this is what we want to cultivate, right? For the purpose of practicing yoga and being successful in the practice of yoga. So when we practice yoga, we need to actively be engaged all the time in perfecting our conduct, in deepening our sense of morality. This is what we do, right? When we practice yoga. And we also need aspiration. We need to aspire, right? This is why yogis are also called spiritual aspirants. We need to aspire to grow, to evolve, to understand more about ourselves, about life, about the purpose of life. You see, the more aspiration we have, the more enthusiasm we have towards developing good morals, right? So it comes together. So, but this is a prerequisite. We need to be engaged in purifying our heart, our mind. Swami Shivananda says, an aspirant in the path of yoga should have faith, energy, cheerfulness, courage, patience, perseverance, sincerity, purity, lack of despondency of mind, dispassion, aspiration, concentration, serenity, self-restraint, truthfulness, non-violence, non-covetousness, etc., etc. Swami Shivananda writes, etc. Many, many things, yes? But you need to understand, this doesn't mean that, if I have gloom in my mind, then I'm not fit for the practice of yoga, right? If I lie, I should not practice. No, we practice, we begin, but we need to understand that all of these things need to be and are going to be cultivated as we practice yoga. See, we should have faith. Faith is something that will grow on us if we don't have it yet. Faith in ourselves, first of all. Yes? And then faith in the words of the Guru, faith in the scriptures. Like this, we need to have cheerfulness. Again, it doesn't mean that if we're not cheerful, we're not good for yoga. It means that as we practice yoga, we will learn how to cultivate cheerfulness, and also naturally, our cheerfulness will increase just by the practice itself, etc. So yoga involves so many different aspects and so many different practices that are on a mental level. Now, Swami Shivananda very briefly here mentions the 4 yogas. We are practicing basically 4 yogas. 4 yogas are being taught by yogis. This is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga is the yoga of action. This is a yoga, Swami Shivananda says, which people who are attracted to this yoga are people who are inclined to action. Is someone here not inclined to action? Everyone is inclined to action, right? So, but this yoga, karma yoga, the yoga of action, teaches us how to perform actions, not any actions that are different from what we're doing right now, as long as we're doing good deeds, but yoga teaches us how to perform these actions without selfishness. Thinking about others, thinking about the Lord when we perform actions for the purpose of purifying our heart. This is generally the idea. This is karma yoga, the yoga of action. Then there is bhakti yoga. This is the yoga of supreme love, the yoga of devotion. And Swami Shivananda writes here that people who are attracted to bhakti yoga are people who are more of a devotional, emotional nature. Is someone here not emotional? Everyone is emotional, you see? And then Raja Yoga is the yoga of 8 limbs, the yoga of Patanjali, the yoga of meditation. Swami Shivananda says people who are inclined to or have a tendency towards mysticism, they are inclined to Raja Yoga. And then Jnana Yoga is the yoga of knowledge, the yoga of wisdom, right? And Swami Shivananda says those who are having very strong intellectual tendencies, they would be attracted to Jnana Yoga. But Swami Shivananda says here, we must practice all the 4 yogas. We must practice everything. He says a little of everything. This is called the yoga of synthesis. Because he says if we practice all the yogas, we will develop harmoniously. We will be developing our hand, our heart, our brain, our head, right? Everything is going to be developed wonderfully. So Swami Shivananda prescribes the yoga of synthesis or integral yoga. It is for integral development. This is the idea. And by practicing the 3 yogas, or the 4 yogas, he also, I'm saying 3 because he puts Raja Yoga and Bhakti Yoga together. We are also removing the 3 defects he's mentioning here, 3 defects that yogis are removing through the practice of yoga. These are called mala, or the impurity of the heart, which is basically selfishness and all the host of other different attributes which come with selfishness, like greed and jealousy and anger, etc. So Swami Shivananda explains that karma yoga, the yoga of action, teaches us how to remove this lower nature, this selfishness, and it is called mala, this impurity. And then the second impurity is called vikshepa. This is the tossing of the mind. The monkey mind, which is jumping from one thing to another, doesn't allow us to concentrate and meditate. This vikshepa is removed through the practice of bhakti yoga, through the practice of devotion. We are centering all of our thoughts, all of our heart to one supreme being. And by this, the tossing of the mind is removed. And then through the practice of the yoga of meditation or Raja Yoga, the mind becomes steady and fit for concentration and meditation. Then there is another last impurity which is called avarana. Avarana means the veil of ignorance. This is removed by the practice of Jnana Yoga. So like this, by practicing all the different yogas, we grow harmoniously and we purify our heart and our mind. And lastly, as we conclude, Swami Shivananda is just mentioning that we should not be in a hurry because we have to understand that yoga is a progress. Growing spiritually is a progress. So we need to take a deep breath, right? And to be patient. We should do our practices and we will grow, we will evolve, but we have to do the work. He's also warning us as a last thing in this chapter. He's warning us that in order to really have success in yoga, we must put stress on morality, right? Otherwise, it would be like building a beautiful house on a rotten foundation. We must have morality. He explains people who do not have morality and take steps on the path of yoga will eventually have a downfall. See, they will use whatever they get from the practice selfishly and they will have a downfall. And he also mentions different powers that may come to yogis. These also, he says, stay away from these. It's dangerous, right? Practice for the purpose of purifying and ultimately realizing the self, not for the purpose of having all kinds of yogic powers. This too will lead to a downfall. Om Tat Sat. Let's close our eyes just for a moment. Oh, announcements.
Om Namah Shivaya, good morning. So we'll review the schedule for the rest of the day. At 8 o'clock, we'll have the yoga class on the Bay West platform, one all levels class. We continue the Kena Upanishad study in the Shivananda Hall at 8:05. 9:45 the brunch, 11 o'clock the ashram welcome and history tour, leaving from reception for any new guests. At noon today, for those who are starting the Yoga Teachers Training course, there will be the orientation meeting at the Shivananda Hall. 2 o'clock, we continue the series of workshops with Theodore Servosis on healing the light body, exploring shamanic wisdom. This will be also in the Shivananda Hall at 2 o'clock. 4 o'clock in all levels class on the Bay West platform. 5:45 the dinner. 7 o'clock the chanting of the Bhagavad Gita, followed by a short study in the main temple. And tonight in the evening satsang, we'll be having a special ceremony for the inauguration of the TTC and a Guru Puja with our ashram priest Krishna Nambudri. So now we conclude with the final prayers and the Arati.
And the final prayers are on page 97. Om